So very quickly, we'll go over a little bit about Broadstreet. If you're totally unfamiliar with Broadstreet, maybe you stumbled on us in the past few weeks and you want to know more about the company. Why Broadstreet Express? So Broadstreet for how many years really didn't have Express as a product. Express is the culmination of a lot of different ideas and a lot of different features of Broadstreet. So we've wrapped it all up into Broadstreet Express, which is now our flagship product and what Broadstreet is going forward. We'll talk about some of the core features, our ad formats, XpressMC, reporting and analytics. We also, in there, which isn't mentioned in that list, we have newsletter ads, sponsored content tracking, automated reporting, geo targeting, and domain white labeling. So these, if you're already Express customer, a lot of these are going to look very familiar to you, but there are some items injected in there that I think you're going to be happy to see, some new features that we've come out with in the past few weeks. And then we'll have time for Q&A. And all right, first questions have come in. Have we started? I was hearing you, but is now silent. If anybody, okay, all right, I'm back. All right, so we're all set there. So we'll go right into Broadstreet. Broadstreet was launched in early 2012. We specialized in ad products for hyperlocal news publishers. For the first year and a half to 2 years of Broadstreet's existence, it was largely a side product. It was started by 2 employees, one of them being me. I worked at Yahoo on the ad exchange, the other being my business partner who worked at AOL's Patch. And it was a side project. We were both software engineers, and we kind of built this project called Editable Ads, which a lot of publishers found very handy. And then later on that year, we launched our full ad serving solution. So similar to Google DFP or OpenX. And we launched that more as a response to the fact that OpenX had shut its doors to a lot of our publishers and we had to take on. A lot of them asked us, can you do full ad serving? And we said, okay, yeah, we can do that. For about 2 years, we didn't really do much in terms of development of the actual ad serving product because it was still sort of in that quasi side project area. But what we did do, we did a lot of listening to our customers and we started to understand the needs of community publishers a lot better. Broadstreet historically has served community publishers almost exclusively, but we've realized that there are other industries, kind of like industry magazines and other sorts of publishers that have the exact same business model as community news publishers. So Broadstreet, we've started to gear all of our tools and all of our development and our features toward publishers who do direct digital ad sales. So we observed that, we listened to our customers, and we said, you know what, our publishers really need to be able to differentiate themselves because uploading 300 by 250s and running them it doesn't seem like it's really pushing them forward. It seems like they're kind of stuck doing what everyone else is doing. And we said, well, you know, we're software engineers. We can figure this out. We can build some interesting products that might sell a little better than 300 by 250s or editable ads. So we launched the ad formats in 2014, and the ad formats have really been what has started to attract people to Broadstreet because a lot of publishers are looking for something different. They don't just want to sell the IAB standard ad sizes. They want something, they want rich media ads, they want something engaging, something that they can impress their clients with. So recognizing that, we launched Broadstreet Express. Express is a platform built for publishers who do direct digital sales that need to impress, they need to perform, so the creatives need to perform, and they need to renew. So once you get that client on board, which is hard enough to do, you want to keep their business at the end of that campaign. You can't just have them disappear and go off to a competitor like Google or Facebook. So we've recognized that there is kind of a schism, if you will, in the ad tech world, okay, or at least in the publisher world. You have publishers who do direct digital ad sales, and then you have a whole other host of publishers, usually on the national level, that focus on programmatic and CPM-based ad sales. So think about ad exchanges where you don't necessarily have a sales force selling for a publisher, but ads are piped in through various exchanges by buyers. And some publishers make some revenue that way. And programmatic is generally hailed as the future of digital advertising, but at Broadstreet, we don't really think that's the case. We think that there's a lot of hype and ad tech, a lot of misdirection and misinformation. And if you look at the economics of advertising in general on the internet, you know, we're seeing this major decline in ad revenue, at least on the digital end for most publishers. And it's really just, it's caused by an overflow of supply. Almost anybody with a WordPress website can run ad tags that pipe in ads through an exchange. And if you are the New York Times, if you are Washington Post, unless you have direct sponsorships, and if you are relying on programmatic, you're subject to, the laws of supply and demand. So we don't ever want to see that happen to our publishers, because our publishers do direct digital sales. They have relationships with their clients, but most importantly, our clients, our publishers on Broadstreet, those community publishers and those industry magazines, have the ability to sell something different than what advertisers can get on an exchange. On an exchange, you can only get 300 by 250, 728 by 90s, and there are, a host of other more engaging ad formats. But the point is, it's all templated, and it's so ad space and money can be traded with fluidity. Smaller publishers have the ability to sell whatever they want. They have total autonomy over their site. They don't, when it comes to impressing a client, or when it comes to really promoting a client's brand, you can do a lot. And that's what Broadstreet does. We want to give you the tools to impress your clients. So we believe, all said and done, we hear about how Facebook and Google are eating up all of the world's ad revenue, but the truth is the ad inventory is always expanding. There's always somebody new launching a website, always someone coming out of the woodwork. And if the world is really that dependent on programmatic, revenue goes down for everyone. And we don't think that's a very bright future for the publishing community. And if you're stuck in programmatic, it's nearly impossible for a publisher to differentiate. The only way you can differentiate is via your audience, the quality of your audience. But the truth is, we think that publishers should be able to sell value. It's all about value and delivering value. So engaging with the status quo is a losing proposition. This is why Broadstreet XPRESS exists. We want to help you deliver real value to your advertising clients. So I kind of touched on this before. When it comes to Broadstreet XPRESS, we try and make things as easy to use as possible. We want to minimize the amount of time that you spend having to create and mock up ads. We want you to be able to walk into a sales appointment and impress your prospects right away. We want you to be able to show them something that they are not going to get through Facebook, through Google, or any of the legacy publications in town that haven't really stepped up their game yet. We want you to deliver an ad that actually performs, because digital advertising works, but if everyone's selling 300 by 250 advertisements, they get boring over time. Of course, the performance is going to drop through the floor. If you sell something more engaging, something that catches a reader's eye, they do actually click on ads. They do follow through. But it's not going to happen if everyone's selling the same thing, or everyone's just stuck with basic banner ads. And ultimately, at the end of that campaign, you should be able to go back to your client. You should be able to show them a report and prove to them that not only did the ad work, but that you delivered way more value than any of the competition ever could. So you want to keep them on board, because, like I said, it's hard enough getting that client on board. So Broadstreet XPRESS can act as a standalone solution like OpenX or DFP. So it can act as your ad server, or it can plug into your existing solution. So for publishers who are interested in potentially migrating off their existing platforms, we can migrate. We have automated migrations to move off of OpenX and Revive, and even DFP. Ad Rotate is another one that we can migrate off of. And or if you're happy with DFP, because DFP is a fantastic solution for certain types of publishers, Broadstreet XPRESS's ad formats and certain number of our tools can plug right into DFP. And in all, when it really comes down to it, was built for direct sales, and community news and trade magazines. Those are really the types of publishers that I think have similar business models, and we can help the best. So we're going to jump right into the demo. We're going to demo a bunch of different items here. We're about 18 minutes in. We're going to demo a bunch of different items, but before I really start on the individual products, I do want to say that if you want to see all of our different ad formats, you go to information.broadstreetads.com, and then click on the ad formats category. We have the showcase page that'll showcase some of our most recent it'll actually showcase all of our ad formats. But if you scroll down, you'll see we have the cube, which is fairly famous. We'll talk about that one. Instant text message, Twitter. So a lot of our publishers like to kind of take this, whether it's on an iPad or on their laptop, they like to walk into an appointment and just have these options available to show and demo the advertiser. If you do, for example, let's just say we want to click on this amazing cube. You had a client who might potentially be interested in it. You click on that, and then you get a page that demos the actual advertisement. It'll tell you exactly what you need in terms of setup. Almost all of our ad formats you can set up in 2 minutes. There are same defaults for every single field, so you could usually just log right in and create an ad without uploading images. We have default images, default titles, so you can create them very rapidly. So you can see the different inputs. We'll talk about this later, event tracking. So we track events and engagement for our different ad formats, and every ad format has potentially different events that it tracks. For example, a YouTube ad, which is a video ad, might track how far the user got along in the video, if they clicked at the end, if they finished the video, something like that. We do have a question. Is there any new ad formats with the release of the new Express program? So yeah, almost all of these ad formats, there used to be Express exclusive ad formats. So there are probably about 15 ad formats which were only available to Express customers. And the Amazing Cube is one of them. Originally, it was available to non-Express customers, but then we moved it over to the Express tier, and there are a few others that we'll go through. So there are actually about 15 different ad formats that are Express only, and usually for good reason, because you'll see that some of these ad formats are actually pretty advanced in what they do. They go far beyond what you would expect of a typical advertisement. So back to what I was saying. That ad formats page is a great place to start. And then if for some reason some publishers like to have a media kit on their website, you can scroll down to the very bottom, and there's a section that says embedded example in your media kit. And if you're just using raw HTML and JavaScript, you can copy and paste that. Or if you're using the Broadstreet plugin, there's a link right here. You can paste this right into a post, and the ad will appear. It won't be under your account. It'll be under Broadstreet's main account. It'll be the exact same ad right here, so that way you don't have to set anything up. It's not logging impressions on your account. It's all going, and it just appears right in your media kit. So that said, let's start jumping into the different ad formats. I'm going to go over the two most popular, and then I'm going to talk about a new one. This is for publishers who are relatively new to Express, or existing publishers who may not have been able to keep up. This is one of our newest ones, and I'm kind of excited about this just because of what it does. First, we'll talk about Instant Facebook. The Instant Facebook ad kind of touches on what Broadstreet's original product was. It was editable ads. It was a 300 by 250 or any size ad format that would pull in content from an advertiser's Facebook page and integrate it into the ad. The original editable ad product was a little unwieldy. It was better in theory than it was in practice. But this newer, the Instant Facebook ad, basically just lays it out in HTML and makes it, it's essentially the Facebook user's latest post. And in this case, Rook Coffee is the default account that we use, but Rook Coffee is a very popular coffee shop in the Monmouth County area of New Jersey. And this ad pulls in the latest from Rook Coffee's or any advertiser's Facebook feed about once every 1 to 2 hours. So you get the post from the advertiser, you get the image, and then you can optionally have comments, which is probably, when we talk about advertising or we talk about marketing, social proof is probably one of the most powerful ways to pitch a potential consumer. And then you have your like count and your comment count at the very bottom. So creating one of these things is actually extremely easy. So what we'll do is go to sandbox.broadstreetads.com, and I'll show everyone how to create these very quickly. So this is our sandbox or our demo site. We're going to go into our dashboard here. Let's see, so this is our demo account. I'll move that over here. All right. So we already have an account set up for Express Webinar. So if I wanted to create one of these instant Facebook ads, one of these ads that dynamically pulls in the latest, I'll actually just search for it because that'll be, there we go. All right, I go down here and say create instant Facebook. Now I can actually create Facebook webinar example. All right, so Rook Coffee is the default. So if I just skipped everything and went down here and clicked create, it would create that that ad. And actually, maybe we'll just do that. So let's just say, you know, you're mocking up. There we go. So see how quickly that was created. But let's just say you're thinking about walking into an appointment. You want to show the advertiser something, you know, without going through a designer first. So I always use 10th Ave Burrito. I use Rook Coffee and 10th Ave Burrito as my businesses of choice when I demo. So let's just say I want to do 10th Ave Burrito instead. I'm in a rush. I got 5 minutes, and then I got to jump in the car and head over to the advertiser's place. Click Update Advertisement. All right, and now we have 10th Ave Burrito. All right, no comments on this one, 16 likes, but you can see it took me about 10 seconds to create this thing. So we have this for Facebook. We have it for RSS. We have it for cell phone. So you can actually have customers, if we go back here and we want to create a new ad, we have the same thing, but for SMS instead. So Express exclusive instant text message. So you can have customers text their latest updates to the ad, and we give you a special phone number that you can have clients text. You can see how quickly. And then Instagram. Instagram's a very popular one. Instagram changed their API and kind of we had to temporarily disable the Instagram. Instagram is coming back because that's another big one. Let's see. We have a question. Is a customer able to indicate which FB entry to use, or is always the most recent? So they can't. So basically, we want to make it as seamless as possible for the advertiser. But what they can do, and this is for Facebook only right now, is that we can actually, and we can add this for Twitter, but you can actually do a hashtag or phrase filter. So you can make sure that you know, if advertiser really does want to, and this only goes back within the last 5 posts, but let's just say if an advertiser said that, okay, we want to do this ad, but we only want posts with like hashtag whatever, or some sort of phrase in there, we can filter the post, but only filters through the last 5. Otherwise, it uses the most recent. So, so the answer is yes, up to 5 posts. And as long as they're willing to use a hashtag or something like that. So I think that was it. Let me, okay. All right, so now we're gonna go right back to where we left off. The Amazing Cube, I said we would talk about this one. All right, so the Amazing Cube is an extremely popular ad format. In this case, it's just showcasing food, and people are probably sick of looking at this one in particular. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to Red Bank Green because there's a few good options on there. Red Bank Green is Broadstreet kind of spun out of Red Bank Green. It was where the first of Broadstreet's ad options were ever really, you know, placed or used in the wild. So we always kind of use Red Bank Green as an example. But you can see there, you know, there are a lot of cubes on this page, and we have a jewelry store that's using it, and it really does showcase the advertiser and the brand pretty well. It's eye-catching. Some say maybe too eye-catching, but the truth is they sell, and they sell really well. So here we have another real estate ad. I believe there's another, and we can see Facebook ads. We have Facebook ads, these instant Facebook ads down the side of the page too. So you can tell they're pretty popular. And by far the most created on Broadstreet. We're in the tens of thousands of Facebook ads created so far. So that's how popular they have become. Whoops. So we'll go down here, and then here's another one, another real estate broker showcasing some really nice house, probably in Rumson. So let's see if we have any other questions. Nothing yet. Okay, so back to the Amazing Cube. The Amazing Cube, you basically just upload 6 photos, preferably square if you really want to control how it looks, but you can upload any 6 photos and the photos will be auto-cropped and you'll get this nice little gallery. Again, it takes about the same amount of time it took to create that instant Facebook ad. You can, it would take to, so why don't we just create one of these very quickly. Create a cube. All right. And I'm not going to change anything here. Actually, maybe I will change it. I'll change it to about 200 pixels wide instead. Could change the logo width, I think, and then we can change, how quickly it rotates, whether we do navigation. So most of our ads have a decent amount of options, so you can customize it, especially if we kind of foresaw the potential need. So there we go. Create the 200 pixel wide cube. Let's just say I made a mistake with the sizing. I want to go back to 300. Then that's created. And then if I just want to run it in my sandbox site very quickly. So now I'm just running in a campaign. This is for customers who might be thinking about Express as a potential ad server. Go to sandbox.broadstreetads.com. You can see now the cube is running on the site. So for those who are on DFP or a potentially alternate ad server, a lot of times, like when you run an ad, it doesn't run right away. You have to wait for the ad cache to clear and find out that you made a mistake at some point. With Broadstreet, everything just runs right away. So it makes for very, very efficient demos, at least. But you can see how easy it was to just kind of create that ad and run it right on the site. So that is the Amazing Cube. Like I said, wildly popular. Probably too popular because some prominent criticism of digital advertising is that it can be obtrusive. Could be borderline obtrusive, but like I said, it sells very well. So now we're going to talk about this direct response ad. So this is if you're already an Express customer, you might have seen me talk about this. I think on one post on the Broadstreet community Facebook group. This is this is on information.broadstreetads.com, and this is it's not 100% complete, but I just want to give you the gist of what was taking place here. So this is a pop-up that you can control how often it pops up. Let's just say it only shows up once a day, and in this case, the default behavior is retirement tip of the day. It doesn't have to be a tip of the day. It can be kind of like, maybe a sweepstakes, or just the point is to collect email or collect text in one way or another. So let's just say if this was running on your site, in this case, it's wealth advisors, or that's the example that we're using. And we have this retirement tip, and this is, totally customizable. And what a user can do is, let's just say someone did want to sign up. I'm going to put in my personal email address. Oh, that's not going to work if I misspell it. And sign up for more daily tips. So the reason I said it's unfinished is because we want to obviously have a thank you or a confirmation at the end of that. And then I'll visit my inbox. Get rid of this Pottery Barn. And what it does is it sends a user it sends both your advertiser and you an email saying who just signed up. And not only does it appear in the advertiser's inbox, but it also appears in the analytics and the reports that you're going to show the advertiser at the end of the campaign. So, this is the beginning of what we call direct response ads that you can actually. Let me go back to that page. Ads that take it a step further from what you would expect of a typical display ad. There we go, and I'll refresh this. All right, so how many ad platforms have an ad that actually can send an email? The idea of an ad sending an email or being able to directly respond to an ad, usually it's like you click on the ad and you pray that whoever clicked on the ad ultimately follows through. If you have a used car salesman and he gets 100 clicks at the end of a campaign, but no one ever reached out to him about that car that he was trying to sell, that it doesn't look so great. So what we want to do is help shorten that sales funnel get, whether it's an email or some sort of contact information or something like that, and get that directly to the advertiser. And doing it right by emails is a pretty powerful positive encouragement in running that ad. So you could imagine it's something that an advertiser might be pretty happy about. Something that's coming with this ad is to be able to pull in the retirement tip of the day straight from Twitter or Facebook. So imagine that the advertiser wanted to keep this updated every day, and all it did was just pull in the latest tip. So every day you have readers that come to your website and they see the latest tip and they can subscribe by email. That would be a very powerful thing. So that's something we're still working on, but right now we think it's pretty useful as it is right now. Quick question check. No questions yet? So we're going to get to the reporting because I keep talking about that, and that's coming soon. The next thing I want to do is talk about, oh, actually, you know what, while we just stay on that direct response ad, I wanted to show that just like the cube, just like the instant Facebook, you can customize, pretty much everything about this this ad too. If I didn't want it to be called the retirement tip of the day, I could call it, Kenny's tip of the day. I can change the text, the button, the call to action, the to email, which could be a comma separated list of emails, the email subject, whether, maybe I want this, the from name could be Red Bank Green. Actually, let's give that a shot. Email subject, Red Bank Green. All right, and those are the caps for how often they display. Kenny's tip of the day, so we got our new settings. I'm going to send that. All right, and it appears. So this time it appears from Red Bank Green, so you can customize who it actually comes from. So it doesn't have to just come from Broadstreet ads. It's going to be a little more well branded for your publication. All right, so about 35 past the hour, so we're going to move on. Dynamic newsletter ads. So I'll go over this very quickly, but for a long time, the only kind of ad you could run in a newsletter, and by the way, newsletters, especially for some of our industry magazine clients, are major revenue sources. They have, on average, 20 to 30% open rates. Advertisers love being inside a newsletter, and the only thing you could run, Broadstreet supports newsletter advertising, but the only thing that you could run was standard banner ads. So the reason you could only run standard banner ads is that email clients don't support HTML and JavaScript, which is needed to do some of the more fancy ad types. So what we wanted to do here is, in our newsletter, we showed this this ad right here, this Intuit ad. All right. Now, what's really interesting is that this actually displays as a static image, so it doesn't use any HTML and JavaScript. That said, in order to set it up, we go to its place in the dashboard. You can see that it's just like our instant Facebook ad or any one of our ad types, and we can edit it. We can change how it looks, but it ultimately is an HTML and JavaScript ad. So when an ad is running in a newsletter, Broadstreet will automatically convert that ad to a static image which can run in a newsletter ad. So when I originally sent out this newsletter, these press releases they're probably from a month ago, so we're probably talking about mid-August. But when I open this newsletter again, now we have press releases from 5 days ago on September 21st, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So you can see that this ad actually stayed updated. It's dynamic. And so you have dynamic updating ads. So an advertiser, let's just say it used to be that you run an advertiser in your newsletter and you might run them for like a few weeks at a time. And that was it. It was just a static ad. It was always the same banner, always the same message. Sometimes, they do update on a weekly basis. But imagine the banner ad inside the newsletter didn't ever have to be changed. It didn't actually require any work on your end. It always had the advertiser's latest message. So that's what these banners do. And it does take a little more infrastructure, a little more work on Broadstreet's end, but it does end up being a pretty powerful tool for some of our clients. So the reason I use Intuit here is because, like I said, a lot of industry magazines in particular, and trade magazines, they have clients like Intuit that definitely do have press releases, or they definitely have things that they're trying to get out. That it's a press release for a reason, so they're trying to promote something. So being able to display this in a newsletter is very powerful. So we'll be coming out with new ad formats that right now it's a 300 by 250, but you could make it full width if you want. We're going to come out with different ad formats that support different use cases in a newsletter. ExpressMC. So ExpressMC is a community news feed. This is another core product of Broadstreet, and we built this so publishers could very quickly quickly ramp up revenue on their site. So this is probably not the best example because I'm logged in right now, but let's see if I can log out. Interesting. All right, finally. All right, so here we are. Now we can see it full screen. So this requires a little bit of setup, and we do have a tutorial video on how to do it. But you can basically, this is a sidebar and feed that fits inside your that basically makes room for itself on the side of your on the side of your website, and you can pump in as many advertisers as you want in this feed. So it's very similar to the instant Facebook ad. We call this the beat mixer, and then the individual ad types, you can see they come from Twitter. We have what we call a Twitter beat. So you create a Twitter beat and you run it inside the mixer, and it always shows, in reverse chronological order, all of the different advertisers in your feed here. So it's always their latest posts, really well displayed. And on top of this, it's very mobile friendly. So just to prove that to you, I'm going to go to Broadsheet's browser stack account. So this is where we kind of do all our testing of ad formats. And okay, I think I clicked on the wrong thing there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this. So this is like an actual iPhone. It's not just an emulator. It's an iPhone that is running and running somewhere in BrowserStack's cloud. And we're just going to take a look at this this beat mixer on an actual iPhone. So you can see that shows up at this bar at the bottom, and it scrolls through the different updates. So it does keep this unread update count, and if a reader does want to actually view different things going on, scroll through. So it almost kind of brings the Facebook style of feed to you. Now think about your advertisers and think about the frustration they may have when posting on Facebook, because I've seen in some cases an advertiser has let's just say a certain business has 13,000 likes on their Facebook page, but when they post something, they get 4 likes out of that. And you start to get the impression, and this might be a beloved advertiser, and you start to get to the impression that Facebook's really trying to encourage their advertisers to boost all of their posts. So that's the only way they kind of got to pay to play in that sense. So the ExpressMC feed basically gives your advertisers a definite place where they're always going to be seen. Where is that thing? So they're always kind of getting, as long as they consistently update their feed, they're always getting some visibility. And we don't just want this to be advertisers. In this case, it's a publisher's own posts, could be police and fire outlets. You also want it to be a community feed, because you want this to be information. Because just because it's being paid for doesn't mean that it isn't valid information. In this case, Tommy's coal-fired pizza, there is happy hour, and people might legitimately be interested in that. Or margaritas, if there's some sort of special. Here we have an elementary school in the area, so you can really turn this into a community feed, and it's a pretty powerful thing. And like I said, you can jam as many advertisers as you want in there, and we tell our publishers that if you think about it, if you could get 10 advertisers at $15 a month, it kind of justified the early bird price, or in this case 10 advertisers at $20 a month. And they get this like constant visibility. So, they're in this feed, and eventually they're going to want to see performance, or going to see what shows up in their reports. So I think it's about time we got to that. And let me just do a quick question check. Okay. So, After the newsletter is sent, what ad is it when it is sent? I don't think I quite understand that question. Double opt-in. So I think there might have been a misunderstanding. Double opt-in isn't really relevant to the ad in this case. MailChimp, we were just showing dynamic newsletter ads, and then we had another ad that we demoed where an advertiser's email address was sent to, was sent to the advertiser. That doesn't go through MailChimp. That actually goes through Broadstreet's own email system. So that's not really an issue. So I'm just gonna move on. So getting back to, we talked about MC, the last technical ad format I'm going to demo, and then I'll get into analytics and reporting. It's been about 40 minutes, so I do want to allow for any time for publishers to ask questions. So we have the sponsor content tracker. So this is just an example. We have an example that I found very quickly prior to the demo. Barissanet, pretty famous publisher, one of the classic hyperlocal publishers that's always studied and prodded out by industry pundits. This is a sponsored post. Typically, when you sell a sponsored post, Google Analytics doesn't make it very easy to get to the actual stats. So you have the sponsored post, but how did it perform? So it's really hard to drill down into Google Analytics and get that. And even if you do drill down and find it in Google Analytics, you don't really get much information in terms of how it performs. So ultimately, you're going to have to compile a report, and traditionally it's a very manual process, and you have to go back to your advertiser. Now, sponsored content, by the way, is usually a very powerful advertising option. Advertisers love being written about, even if it says sponsored at the top. But you also want to be able to deliver stats that show that the sponsored content actually performed. So the sponsored content ad format is actually a small snippet that you place in the bottom of your post inside WordPress, or it could be a non-WordPress site. And you can't see, it's actually invisible, but it's running in the background and analyzing my behavior right now. And this has been running, obviously it posted on September 8th. So let's take a look at the reporting for this. Wrong link. All right, so here's the sponsored ad format. This is just like where the ad lives in the dashboard, but if I click on reporting up here, we're going to start to see Broadstreet. We have pretty advanced analytics and reporting. And this is for that piece of sponsored content. You can see there were 143 link clicks inside the ad. There were 141 complete reads. There was some text selection, so users copied and pasted some info on the page, and the number of views and unique views. So if I just want to see the number of people that, the complete reads, for example, obviously if somebody buys sponsored content, they kind of want people reading all of it. So that sponsored content tracker makes sure that the user got far enough down the page that it suggests that they actually read the entire post. So if we take a look at the report here, we can actually show you where all of those complete reads came from. And you can see that they're all legitimate. Barissanet is in Montclair, New Jersey, so you have all these surrounding towns where people are actually reading this. So, so you can go back and you can prove to the advertiser that that their sponsored content campaign was actually very successful. So if you want to go back and you want to prove that to the advertiser, you can go over here, click downloadable report, and we'll actually generate a nice report for you. And I'll show you another downloadable report in a bit, which has a little more information in there. So you can get this downloadable report with kind of the basic stats inside the report there. So sponsored content tracking solved with Broadstreet XPRESS, and you get all those nice little you get the numbers, but you also get information behind those numbers, because how many times have you walked into, with your, you can tell an advertiser they got 100 clicks on their ad or they got 10,000 clicks on their ad, but it's it could just be a number pulled out of thin air. Nobody really knows, but Broadstreet XPRESS gives you the power to see who was behind that click and where they were, and make sure that they were actually legitimate users. So on that note, we just saw the analytics and reporting. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Red Bank Green, and we saw we saw this ad, and I think the one I had pegged for demoing was this Brenda McIntyre real estate ad. And let's just take a look and see how this performed, because obviously you might be looking at a lot of these ads in Sidebar. There's a lot of them. You might be skeptical as to how they're actually performing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to click on this link right here. So this is inside Red Bank Green's dashboard, and we're going to go to advanced reporting again. All right. So now we have different numbers. Before we had on the sponsor content tracker, we had complete reads and views and unique views and things like that. But now on the cube, for example, we have the total number of clicks, the number of people that clicked on the front, the back, the right, the left click, or the top click. So let's just take a look at the clicks here. And we're going to see, pretty much the same activity. So this works not just for the special ads, it works for the standard ad formats, and you can see it's all Red Bank, Fairhaven, etc. Sometimes you see something out of state, and that could be someone on vacation. Maryland, a lot of people in Maryland are have something to do with the armed services, and Red Bank's in an area where there used to be Fort Mont. There's a little bit of history there, so it's totally reasonable that somebody would be from Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, etc. So you can see, all of that information. So we have all this information that no other ad platform has ever provided to their clients. No other publisher has ever been able to provide to their clients. So let's just go to this Get Downloadable report. So we saw that report before. Let's see what it looks like for the cube. It takes a little while to generate because there are a lot of queries going on. What we're going to do is wait for that. It shouldn't take too long. You can put your own logo at the top. And what we're going to do, so we can see we have all of that data, of all of that click data right here in the report. And let's just say we want to send this to the advertiser. I want to send it to the advertiser. I'm going to send it to myself, and I happen to be on this account. I can also add it to arbitrary email addresses. All right, so what it's going to do, it's actually going to convert this report to a PDF, and then is going to send it to me by email. So we'll keep an eye at the very top here. So once we see this email count go to 1, we'll know that I got my report via email. So what's important to note is that you can have these reports, there it goes right there. You can actually have these reports sent to your advertisers automatically. So you have the click-through rate, that's a really healthy click-through rate, and we saw, how many, how we could get all the data for those individual clicks. You have the breakdown by city, and then we have all. So this report would go direct to your advertiser, and I think that's a pretty impressive white labeled report. I think it really demonstrates that you have it together in terms of your ad sales for your publication. If I were an advertiser, I'd be impressed, because everyone else just gets an email with the number of clicks and the number of views. So if I'm getting this as an advertiser, I kind of have a feeling that it might be working. So I said that you could set that up to happen automatically. The way you do that is you go right into the advertiser's account. I want to click edit right here, and I could add the administrator right here, and I could say, okay, I want to send them a report weekly, I want to send them a report monthly, etc. So every, in this case, every Monday morning, they'll get one of those nice PDF reports with how their advertiser performed over the last 7 days. So geo targeting, we're running out of time, and we're going a little longer than intended. So if you're still on board, it looks like we're full force still. So that's great. We're going to jump into geo targeting very quickly. Geo targeting, Express launched with geo targeting, zip-based geo targeting, but we actually added global geo targeting with the ability to go beyond just zip code. Wrong account. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into, I think we had a campaign running for our cube before. So we're going to go right into the campaign here. And I want to show you the geo-targeting here. So you have geo-targeting, but I can actually pick almost anywhere in the world to target. So if I click London, I get London, UK as a city. And And just for demo purposes, if I go back here and I click, so I see the cube now. So this is going to be one of those now you see it, now you don't type things. I could target London as a radius, or I could do an exact match. All right, so some options up here, and I say I want to include London, so that's important to me. Only people in London should see this ad. So now if I go and I click, go back to where I was, and I click refresh, I don't see that ad anymore. Now, by the same token, I can actually say, hey, you know what? I want to do that again, but I want to exclude London this time. So I want an exact match, but I want to exclude. So we had some publishers who requested this. They say, I have advertisers who are willing to advertise on my site, but they actually want to advertise to everybody who is not currently in the city that I'm in right now. So they kind of, if they're already there, they don't really want to, let's just say it's the city tourism bureau or wherever that is. So in this case, we're going to exclude London. So London doesn't want to advertise to anybody in London. Go back here. So that should include me in theory, right? All right, there we go. So we see the ad. So you have global geo-targeting. We have, very obscure places loaded up in here, but it's still, I can go by zip code. So if I want to do, 1001, zip code where I used to work, I can choose that. So I can go postal code, I can do radius, I can target an entire country. So I can say USA. So everyone in the USA, do an exact match. In this case, radius wouldn't really make sense, because is that in Kansas somewhere? Who really knows? So we have much more powerful geo-targeting than we had at the original Express launch, and probably much more powerful geo-targeting than most other ad platforms at this point. And we do the inclusion-exclusion to make it handy. So that's been a big thing for some, because even the publishers who don't really do national ad sales, sometimes they still have clients that still want to geo-target within a specific town or something like that. And the last thing we'll talk about before we go on to questions, because we only have 5 minutes left, and like I said, I didn't want to keep it going that long. Oh, we have a quick question. So can I include US and include Canada, but then do I have to select every other country and say exclude them? So no. The way it works, and we have an article on this, but basically exclusion, if you only include items, it's just considered inclusive. So if you include US and Canada, everything else is technically excluded. Exclusion kind of takes precedence afterwards. So what you could do is include US, Canada, but you could say, but not New York City. So I could do something, and what that would do is include, let's take a look. Let's actually, USA, exact match at GeoTarget, Canada, GeoTarget, and then I should be able to exclude New York City. What am I talking about? There we go. And we're going to exclude that, the exact match. So update the campaign. So because I'm not in New York City, I should still see this ad. All right, and then everybody in New York City shouldn't be able to see that ad. Now what I could do, just to kind of make the point, let's see, NYC. I'll do radius, and then let's see, I'm going to do a 50-mile radius, so that should cover me. So I'm within 50 miles of New York City, so I shouldn't see this ad unless my IP is displaying. So my current IP address might be technically outside of the range of New York City, so that might be why I see it, but exclusion usually takes precedence, and not usually, it always takes precedence. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Did I just not add that? Okay. Maybe that, all right, so that was the case. I was thinking maybe I was on the edge in that case, but I think it just didn't save. So basically in this case, I have US, Canada, not New York City. So exclusion always takes precedence. And I can explain more about that afterward. So then 158, the last thing I'll show you is the ad blocker and visibility. So ad blockers, let's see, I have my ad block plus running right here. Let me go to, let's see options, make sure that easy list is enabled. All right, easy list is one of the most aggressive lists. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back here, ad block plus still enabled, and we still see the ad. So what this does, it's basically, Broadstreet uses, basically makes its ads almost impossible for ad blockers to target. Ad blockers are actually not as sophisticated as people tend to think they are. They think there's like some machine learning or AI behind it. It's really just a huge, huge list of rules. And Broadsheet does everything it can to stay outside of those rules and will continue to do that going forward. And also the domain for the actual ad is white labeled. So I don't know if you can see, but at the very bottom of my screen, it says broadstreet.streetinteractive.com. So in order to set up ad block or ad blocker invisibility, which you can also just search for white labeling, you can see there's a post on our information site to tell you how to get the initial parts of it set up. It requires some changes to your domain name, which sometimes whoever you registered your domain with, sometimes they can do it for you. Sometimes you can have a developer do it, or sometimes it's easy enough, depending on the service, to handle it yourself. But once that's set up, then we can make sure that ads are virtually invisible to ad blockers. So that's a pretty unique service. There are some third-party services that offer this product specifically. It's all wrapped up inside Broadstreet XPRESS. So that is it. It's 2 o'clock. We did went over the core features. Like I said, I hope it was informative for existing Express customers who who are looking to brush up on some items that they might not have known about yet. And I hope it was very informative to those who are prospective customers for Broadsheet XPRESS. I will open it up to questions. I'll stay on, and if you got to run, go ahead. My email address is kenny@broadstreetads.com. So KENNY @broadstreetads.com. So there will be an automated follow-up going out after this webinar. So if you're interested in Express, almost every publisher has a different situation in terms of their setup. You want to talk about pricing or something like that, be more than happy to. Just send me an email. Or if you just have general questions, kenny@broadstreetads.com. So if you got to run, go ahead. And what I'll do is I'll stay on and I'll answer questions for a little bit. So here we go. My sales team is listening and new to Broadsheet, and we'll be sending ad reports to our customers for basic banner ads. Can you quickly go through the process of how we would send ad reports for banner ads that would be featured on our website and our newsletter? Okay, so the way that works is if you want to, we're just assuming that you would want to send it on an automated basis. So we're going to go back into the Express webinar advertiser account. We'll go to that Facebook ad. Let's just say that we wanted to have reports automatically sent to your advertiser. In this case, the advertiser here is Express Webinar. We click Edit. I could add, so we could add the client. We'll just say it's your client at somewebsite.com. And then we'll just make up a quick password. All right, so what I can do at that point is just check that off and say I want them to send them weekly reports. And then any ads under their account, they'll get a weekly report for that. So that's how you do it on an automated basis. You also have reports here. But if I want to go drill down to the individual ad, if I want to send it kind of on the spot, an advertiser who's like, hey, just curious, I know the month isn't over yet, but I just want to see how my ad's doing. Maybe they're really excited. That's a good thing, right? Get downloadable report. We're not going to have any stats here because we just ran that ad. What we could do here is just say, I want to share this report by email. Click off by my client. I could also check off me. All right. So that way I can kind of send it on the spot too. We'll see. That should appear in my inbox soon. Here we are. And that's Broadstreet's logo for Sandbox account. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. Kenny, if we set up newsletter ads, will the report include them and website ads as well. All right, so the way this works, so what you would do in that case, if you want to start running ads in your newsletter, you would actually create a new zone dedicated to your newsletter. So newsletters can generally only show one ad per zone. So I could create an ad called the newsletter leaderboard, or a zone called the newsletter leaderboard, right? And then I would say, get the zone code, and I get the static code right here. And if you search our support site, this is also mentioned in the support site, this whole static zone code thing. But this just basically becomes your ad tag. And what you can do is you can go into MailChimp or Constant Contact or whatever your newsletter software is and just paste that in. And this becomes your, your zone. So what you would do is, let's just say that code was embedded inside my MailChimp template already. And then I said, okay, I have my my Facebook or my Cube ad, better yet. Oh, wait, Cube ad's not a newsletter friendly ad. So let's just say I have my Facebook ad. I want to run it. You're running in a few different places. I want to run it on the website in that 300 by 250 spot, but I also wanted to run it in the newsletter leaderboard. So that's how you would do it. So you basically set up a zone specifically for your newsletter template, and then you just target it to the zone just like you would when you're targeting an ad to your website. All right, so I'll wait another minute or two in case any more questions pop up. All right, so no questions yet. So I just want to let you know that it's okay. We got one. All right, we got two more. So I see someone said they have one coming, and then we have two more that just popped up. So I'll hit those first. If you have a separate zone for the site ad and newsletter ad, when setting it up, do you put both in the same campaign or separate campaigns? You can do either, but because they're not actually appearing on the same page, you can actually just put them in the same campaign to keep it easy. So this is recorded. How can we get a copy? So that's a good question. I don't know yet. It is being recorded. I'll probably put it on YouTube, but the question is distributing the link. So what I'm going to do, this I'll definitely do. I'm going to get it on YouTube, and then I am going to post it on that webinars page on our website. So if you go to information.broadstreetads.com and click webinar schedule, I only did it once so far, but I'll put an archived webinar recording. I think today was actually a pretty smooth and informative webinar, so I might just use this one off the bat, because then for tomorrow and Thursday's webinars, I can also offer this as a webinar in case people didn't get to it. So it looks like, yeah, I did put this on YouTube last time. So I will, I'll try and send a follow-up via, our regular newsletter, and also I will definitely put it here. So that's how you can get that. All right, can you cover the sneaker ad? Yes, so the sneaker ad was inspired by one of our competitors who totally ripped off one of our other ad formats. You can say there's a little bit of spite going on. So the sneaker ad is an ad that just pops up at the bottom. You can rate limit it. You can, in fact, the information's right here. We can see how many times it displays per period. Let's just say its number of seconds passes 300. You can do 10,000 or whatever. The point is, you only want to see the sneaker 4 times every day, for example. So the sneaker ad is something that actually performs really, really well. And it just slides up at the bottom if you want to close it. And then I think it'll pretty much do that. 4 times people might think is a little much, so you can edit that. And then if I click close again, I shouldn't see it anymore. So I've exhausted the 4 times within the 300 seconds, just 5 minutes. So So it's a sneaker ad. You can put in really any size ad. Ideally, it's something, kind of a leaderboard size, but you can go really any size that you want. Change the background color. If you don't want to show the close button because whatever reason you want to annoy your users, you could do that. But same inputs, easy to create, just like the other ad formats. Okay, next question. If I run an ad in the newsletter for a company, and that same company is running a website ad, will their automated reporting include both ads? Yes. So they'll actually get, yes, it will. So they'll get one report with the stats for the two different ads in there. Any idea what kind of CPM people are typically charging for the sneakers? Their way to eliminate the huge board at the top. I don't know in terms of CPM. And all right, so this is something I didn't go over at all, and it's kind of hard to. So there is no setting for eliminating the margin. However, all of our ad formats can actually be edited with CSS. So if you're handy with CSS or you have a developer, let's just take a look at this. Okay, I'm trying to find a good, okay, we'll use this. So I didn't mention this during the webinar, but what you can do, I have to find this ad very quickly. That's like a little trick for, I don't think a lot of people use this street search, but you can find things pretty quickly through that. And if you know the ID of a campaign or an ad or something that you're looking for, you can actually just type ID : and type in the number, and it'll limit it to things with that ID. So I didn't mention this during the webinar, but what you can do is you can scroll all the way down here, and there's the show advanced area, and you can add extra CSS. So if I was really crazy, I could do something like this. So this is CSS. I can enter that. I think obviously by default, the Facebook ad has a white background, so you can actually edit the style of the ad. So you could use that area to edit the size or the margin on that sneaker ad. And so you can do it that way. Sometimes when publishers make requests or there's enough of them, they say, hey, can you add a setting to do this? For example, that instant Facebook ad that filters by hashtag. That was a request that I just kept hearing, so we ended up adding it. So right now it's not a setting, but we can add it in the future. Or you can just use the CSS area like that. Sneaker ad, can you add a got it and stop after they click yes? I don't think we have, there's a yes button on that, but it's something that we could do. We've done that. We actually did that on the, so fun finding all these things. Let's see, on the email collector ad. So when we see that, oops, have my developer window open. We actually have this link down here, don't ever show me this again, or don't ever show this to me again. And if I click that, so don't see again. So you can make sure that they let it go forever. Some publishers like that. Some of them aren't, huge fans. So we could potentially add that. We just put it in the list of features that we eventually have to implement. All right, so it looks like we're out of questions. Wait another couple minutes. Oh, we got a bunch pop up real quick. So I'll knock out these questions, and then if I don't have it at the end of it, then we'll call it a day. And any other questions I can follow up with by email. So about pricing, we have the pricing on our website. I don't have my own website in my browser cache. So broadstreetads.com pricing. So we have the pricing. And so basically, we have a CPM with a monthly minimum. Broadstreet Express is $200 a month minimum. We had an early bird offer going for a while, so I still work with publishers on pricing. So if you have unique needs, or you really want to talk about pricing, like I said, you can email me, Kenny@broadstreetads.com. We're probably in the short term one of the more expensive ad platforms. That said, we do a whole lot more than other ad platforms do. But in the long run, you'll notice that on other ad platforms, it's not as expensive to get started, but in the long run, it does get very expensive. So if you start looking at Ad Speed or Ad Butler, because I'm very aware, when I'm pricing out my product, I do take a look at them, and I do realize that we do have some features that for example, ads that run in newsletters, in order to convert those ads over to images, it requires more infrastructure. There's all these virtual browsers that get spun up in memory and run inside and then we take the screenshot, we upload it to a CDN. So there's a lot working there. So we kind of have to do a little bit. We have to be a little more expensive up front. But in the long run, you'll find that $50 a million served, or basically what's essentially a $5 CPM, is much cheaper than the competition. So that's the pricing. But if you have questions about it, or you need a specific situation, you have multiple properties, or you just want to talk about it, you can email me, Kenny@broadstreetads.com. Kenny, where is the sneaker ad on the create a new ad list? It's a good question. Advertiser's house, new advertisement. So I usually just search for sneaker. In this case, it's only in the Express exclusive. Eventually, this category is going to go away because Express exclusive is, as of October 31st, there's no such thing as anything that is not Express. So we're probably going to readjust these categories here too. But right now, it's an Express exclusive if you type sneaker. Could you walk through how to have sidebar ad spots auto rotate on refresh? So actually, the way you do that, I actually have that set up already. Let me go back to that demo account I was working with before. So we had that this is our ad format / Express webinar. So you can see we have two ads running in the same zone right now, but only one appears at any given time. So it's random. And what I'll do is go back here. Oh, you know what? One of those might be geo targeted, right? So let's go back to that cube and just make sure it is not geo targeted. The gist of it is that you essentially talking and doing things at the same time is easier said than done. So what you basically do is you just target, if you want 3 ads to rotate in one zone, you just target 3 ads to that zone, and it naturally just displays one at a time randomly. So you can see it's kind of randomly going between the 2 ads. If for some reason I wanted that zone to display more than 1 ad, I can say edit zone and change the advertisement count to 2. And then refresh this page, and now I have both ads. Then if I wanted to let's say if I wanted to rotate, so I could say the rotation interval is like once every 2 seconds. I want to change it to a rotation type, ad zone. So it's obviously a little much, but just to get the point across. So there are a few different configurations, but the default behavior is actually just rotating between all of the campaigns in a certain zone. And then there are different rotation options beyond that. So the lowest level package is free to 100,000 views, yes. Yeah, so the point of that lower level / trial package is that you can take it for a test run. Beyond 100,000 views, you get a very low CPM. But at the end of the 90 days, the trial expires and you're asked to upgrade to Express Business. But that's the point of the trial. So you can take it for a test run and create some ads and get a hang of the platform. First column, not ready to shell out 200 yet. That's a common concern. Like I said, we do try and work with individual publishers, but at some point we just can't go lower. We built a very powerful product that just can't be, it's hard to support customers and give the level of support we do below a certain price threshold. So while we do try and work with publishers, almost any publishers in their various situations, it's really hard to do what we do and go lower than that. And if we could, we would, but we can't. In order to grow and do the things that we want to do, we kind of have to peg it at a certain price. All right, for example, there's 4 300 by 250 ads. Each one pays the same price. I'd like them to alternate positions on each page load refresh for fairness of pricing. So like I said, you would just run those 4 sidebar ads in the same zone. You can't do it. You can't make sure that every single, that it's perfectly equal, but it is random. And the reason behind that is that there are actually, there are a lot of ad servers, and those ad servers can't really coordinate, who saw what ad, because on one ad request, you might be dealing with ad server A, and on the next request, you might be dealing with ad server Z. So there are a lot of different ad servers. So while it can be random and it does come very close to equal distribution, it doesn't rotate perfectly. It's random, which is the case for most ad servers. With Express, are the sidebar ads and sneaker ads free, or do they still require additional monthly costs? So all ad formats on Express come at no additional cost. It's inclusive. So the only thing you pay is the monthly minimum and the CPM. So the CPM, for example, if you were paying Express at $50 a million, if you served 1 million ads, your ad serving cost would technically be $50, but because the monthly minimum is 200, you would just pay the monthly minimum. If you serve 5 million ads, which would be 5 times 50 equals $250, that's the point where you would go beyond the threshold and you would pay $250 as opposed to the monthly minimum of 200. So the ad formats, like I said, more for legacy reasons, have pricing attached to them. So that'll go away entirely. If you're an Express customer, you don't pay anything more for the individual ad types. Yes, so for 90 days, even after, even under 100K, it wouldn't be free. All right, thank you, Chris. All right, cool. So I think we're at the end there. That's the end of the questions. We did go a little late, but like I said, I hope it was informative for everybody. I will post this. I'll probably do it right after the webinar just so it doesn't slip my mind. Make sure this goes on YouTube and I post it to that webpage on our information site. But if you do have questions, any follow-up questions, if Express is something that you want to get on board with, talk to me sooner rather than later, because basically the end of the light tier is on October 31st. And that there's going to be a crunch in October. There are going to be a lot of people reaching out to me, and at some point, I'm gonna stop being as flexible with pricing as I've been, and just stick to the regular pricing. Because we did have the early bird for a few months, and I want to respect the fact that the people who did jump on the early bird did it, early, and they got a special discount. So, like I said, the flexibility is kind of is something I've still done in some cases, but if you're thinking about coming on board, like I said, it'd be sooner rather than later, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions or kind of, give any pointer or answer questions about things I might not have addressed in this webinar. So thank you everybody for attending the webinar. Like I said, I'll put it online, and if you have questions, Kenny@broadstreetads.com. Enjoy the rest of the day.